So I got my car back, so that's exciting. But so I want to talk about the ways I look at different opportunities that come by. Just because what I've found is the better you position get in financially and with the business and everything else, one of the downsides is that opportunities or ways to make more money keep on coming, your way. And like when you're first starting out, that doesn't sound like such a bad thing, but you know, it becomes an issue, right? And the reason for that is they call it the shiny object syndrome, and it's something that I have really, really struggled with. And because what ends up happening is like most things that I see is, and all the business guys talk about it, but it's kind of like compound interest, right? So I talked about that on the channel before, but like and the same thing with the atomic habits, but it's basically 1% better. I've talked about it numerous times, but 1% better for the year is 37 times better. And for like the opportunities, what ends up happening is that you're putting like with the opportunities starting business or these different types of jobs, it's like everything else. It's like there's this monumental effort in the beginning to get it situated, and then after that it's kind of like it's kind of like pushing up a hill, but then at some point you get to the top of the hill, and then after that, like, it's got all this momentum behind it. And and I think it affects a lot of people, especially when you are, I think it's after you get started, but it's before you really get everything dialed in, because you don't feel like you're getting that much traction, right? You don't feel like you're really getting anywhere, but it's kind of like the glaciers. It's kind of like you don't see all the work that's been put in before. You just see the little tip of the iceberg. And it's the same thing with running a business. We're putting in all this effort and we're not gaining the momentum that we need to or want to. And it comes down to a lot of things. One, we just don't know what the hell we're doing. So that takes a lot of time. Along with that, it's like when you're first starting out, like you don't have the equipment that you should. So then, things that, if you've been doing it for 10 years, one, you have the knowledge behind you, but two, you know what tools to use, you have the processes and everything down. So like in 10 years, like you get a job done in just say, 4 hours, but then when you're first starting out, it takes you 4 days, right? And it's very discouraging. So it's very easy to look at like, oh, if I just do this, it's going to make my life so much better, more money. Go about, like, I think for me personally, it's being consistent in what I do every day. It's also deciding. I made the decision this year that the main thing that we are having issues with is, one, I wasn't going to start a new business, which I kind of did, sort of, kind of. And the other thing is that I was just going to pick one thing to work on, and that's all we've been doing. But it's also important to realize that you don't, just because the one thing needs improvement doesn't mean that you need to be the one improving it. Because at the end of the day, like, you got to where you are because of like the shit but once you get to a certain level, like, you can't rely on yourself anymore. You need to bring in people that know what the hell they're doing. And a perfect example for that is that, so we brought in a sales trainer this year, but we were training people that didn't know sales and everything else. So it took a lot of effort to get them to where they need to be. Now, what I just did, and it was kind of scary, not scary, but it was a lot of money up front. But now I just brought in an actual sales guy that has 12 years sales experience. He was actually recommended by my sales coach. He was actually working with them a few years ago in this new position that he had gotten. And so this is the first week he's been on the phones. And I just looked at the numbers so far for the first week. His consultation rate is 22%, right? So how does that compare to the other people? Well, their average is between like 8 and 12. So in the first week, he's more than double. In some cases, he's triple the amount. Like, the percentage is triple, right? And like the guy wasn't cheap. It was a $50,000 base salary and then commission on top of it. So depending on the numbers, if he hits 15% with 10 calls a day, like he's going to end up making about 110. And then on top of it, it's a W-4 position, so it's not a 1099. So I have to deal with the taxes, everything else. And it was not scary, but it was like one of those things because I've tried a number of things and a lot of it just didn't work out. But finally, so far it is. But the other crazy thing is that he's a higher level of a caliber of employee. So what ends up happening is the stuff we had to babysit everyone else on, and they would kind of do things that we wanted to and kind of didn't. He just does what he's supposed to do. Along with that, he's bringing in his 12 years of experience. Like, yo, like this is where I'm seeing the drop offs. Like, this is what we need to change. This is what we need to change. And between having him plus the sales coach, like, I'm so excited to see what the results are going to be. It's going to be nuts. So, anyway, getting back to the whole, like, the opportunities, one of the major things, because I was just talking to a guy, to Gary a few days ago, or actually over the weekend, what like most people don't know how to even judge the different opportunities they have, or like if you're a remodeler, like you're probably doing, like everyone's probably doing 3 to 5 different types of jobs. So if it's kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel, that kind of thing. And so they don't really know what to get rid of, what to keep, and all this kind of stuff, or what to start advertising for if you're not currently advertising. And so what I told them is it's pretty simple, in my opinion, is it's just breaking down the numbers, right? And the numbers is as simple as looking at, sorry, I just don't want to add anything. It's simple as looking at how much profit that you're making. And that's what most people look at. They're like, oh, I'm going to, like one of the opportunities for us as a fence company, we're like, I know people that can do pools. So we go from selling like multiple, job after job after job. Instead, we sell a pool and make like 25 grand in profit, which sounds great. But then when you start breaking down the numbers, is we're making just as much money per day per crew installing fences as we would for installing pools. Now, we don't even know what we're doing for pools, which we would have someone else do, but now I got to handle the advertising and ramp up the sales process and everything else. Or I could just keep on doing what I'm doing with the fencing and make just as much money with limited headaches and stuff like that, because they're all one and done, in and out in a day. We don't have to deal with multiple subcontractors, between the pool people, the people that dig, the electricians, the plumbers, the concrete people. Like, it's literally, I just deal with one sub. They come in, they do their job, and then we pay them, we get paid, and life is great. So anyway, look at how much that you're making profitability wise for the total job. Then you also want to find out how much that you're making per day. And then you also want to figure out how much money you're making per hour from your own personal time. Because if there's certain jobs where you may be making, $500 a day, but you got to be there for 10 hours, well, you're only making $50 an hour. But there might be other types of jobs where you don't even have to be there. You're only making $250, but it's only taking an hour of your time. So now you're making $250 an hour compared to $50 an hour. So it would make more sense to keep on advertising for those types of jobs. So that way you get more, like if it's super simple, it's, it's not sexy, it's dumb, like fencing is not sexy whatsoever, but it pays the bills and it's very easy to replicate over and over and over again. So anyway, I know there's a bunch of rambling, but I was walking out of Walmart, and just popped up in my head. So I'm like, why don't I talk about this? Hopefully it helps, because I'm trying to make this more of a daily thing so I can hopefully help out more people. And if you need any help, you can email support@localprohelper.com. But honestly, like because we're doing a lot of different things, I don't know how much time I'm going to have. But if you send a message or do a comment on YouTube about some kind of issue you're having, at least then I can make a quick video, something like that. So anyway, if I can be helpful, please let me know. Otherwise, have an awesome day. Talk to you.